Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the session where we hear the results of an amazing brainstorm. As we began the afternoon, I promised you that we would be carrying out a time travel experiment. And here to give us some insight is Sam BOERING from MDF Netherlands. He's the SDG game facilitator. Now, you ran a controlled experiment in imagining paths to 2030, and you had 4 rooms which experienced an acceleration of time to 2030. What type of worlds did they manage to create?
And it was really amazing. It was really fascinating to see what the world can look like. One world actually had quite an okay economy and a little bit less of an environment and a relatively bad society, social aspects. But there was one group that really made a real change. They had the environment really doing well. They had actually been able to turn back all the environmental challenges and resolve them and reduce CO2 emissions and making sure that biodiversity was actually again restored. So that was really a great effort. But the price was also very high because the economy was doing not all that bad, but society was doing really, really bad. They had a score of 0 on society, which means that society in 2030 for this group would mean huge inequalities, actually rampant discord, violence, you name it, and it was there in that world that was created by one of the groups. So that was really fascinating. So environment okay, but society down the drain. How is it possible? And well, there's only one answer to that question, is that we are all humans and we try to do whatever we think is necessary, but sometimes we forget that there are global goals, and sometimes we just look at our own goals and we forget that we need to strive together to make this world a more balanced and a more prosperous place to live in.
So, Sam, you've told us about 2 of the worlds. One of them, the economy was doing okay, but the society was going down. Another one where the environment was doing really well. My heart was starting to raise then. I thought, wow, let's empower them. Those are the policymakers of the future. And then you let us down. There's going to be violence, inequalities. So clearly that group didn't work well. Are those the 2 extremes? Were there the other 2 rooms that found a middle way?
I must be honest with you, and in the end we played 2 worlds. We didn't manage to play the 4 worlds, but in the end we had 2 groups that were playing quite okay. And of course this game is about understanding what it takes to actually work towards the SDGs, to work towards the Sustainable Development Goals. And what both groups realized is that, hey, we need to communicate better and to find a balance or strike a balance between our personal goals and the world goals. And some of the people were saying, hey, maybe we should actually give up on our personal goals in order to achieve the world goals. And I don't think that is necessary, because other games have shown that actually at the moment you really actively participate, work together, and negotiate and also share your resources, and that can be technological, that can be social resources, knowledge, then it is possible to achieve both your own goals as well as the world goals. And that is something that is really enlightening for the people who are playing this game. So you simulate the world, you realize that, hey, maybe it is my own behavior and the behavior of the organization that I represent that can make a difference. And the difference is in dealing differently with the world around you, by establishing partnerships, by engaging, by sharing, by working together. And it requires a whole set of different values. Namely, you have to be more transparent about your own goals. You have to be interested. You have to leave no one behind in practice also. You have to make sure that everybody benefits and everybody gets in a better situation. But usually what we do is we have 2 games. So the first is a game in which we allow the people to experience what it takes. And then we have a second chance world. And the question then is, what would you do differently if the world would have a second chance? And then what happens is that people play the game differently. And you see a completely different dynamics with different results. And that is precisely the learning experience that we would like to bring to the people. Of course, in a short-term environment in where you only have an hour and 15 minutes to play a trial session, you don't get the full learning experience. But in a way, the people did get a learning experience because they realized, hey, this is not the way to go forward. This is not the way we would like to see our world develop towards 2030. So in that sense, that was a good experience.
So when people, at the end of their scenarios, and you gave them the scores, and they realized that they had a score of 0, were they shocked? Were they surprised? Or were they aware each time they made a decision of the implications of that?
No, that is one of the things that people realized in the game. And what I understood from James, who was in the group where the score, the final score for society was 0, he said, actually, we only had 2 minutes to go. And then people started realizing that we had to share, that we can give away things and that we can make things better. But he said, hey, it took a long time for people to realize that a different attitude not only is necessary, but that it is also possible. So they were aware of the fact that they had destroyed society in a way, but at a very late stage in the game. So often you see that somewhere halfway, someone stands up and says, come on, guys, have a look at society. Society is going down to drain. We need all hands on deck. We need to work together to turn this around. And that didn't really happen today. Or maybe it did happen, but at a very late stage in the game.
So I'm interested, are there any, when you play this game with lots of different people around the world, are there any people when you get them in the room that are a particularly successful team? What type of people make better decisions when they're faced with this game?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I remember one game where they played Second Chance World, and that was with the Erasmus program in the Netherlands. And there was one lady who said, okay, now the second chance, okay, let us make sure that everybody shares their goals right from the start. And let us be transparent about this. And let us discuss what it is that we are going to do. And let's see if we can make a difference all together. And we would like to make sure that at the end of the game, we will have a good environment, we will have a good society, and we will have a good economy. We can do it. And what happened, that created really a kind of, I would say, a spirit of cooperation based on natural leadership, I would say, within that group. And that made it possible to have a real good result. And all in all, we have had 2 or 3 occasions where we would have a perfect score, as we call it in the game. At least that's the way I call it. And that is that you have 12 on each, so economy, society, and environment. And you have everybody achieving their personal goals. So personal goals and work goals achieved, leaving no one behind. And we've had that on a number of occasions. And that is really when people, they see that you have to, you have to really balance, and you have to focus on sharing and on working together, and that requires a certain personality, a different mindset also, I would say. It's not your own goals that predominate, but the joint effort together.
I think
sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that's very interesting that you say that it's important to balance the personal goals and the societal goals, because often when we think about the green economy, it's set out as, you know, these big trade-offs. You can either have one thing or the other. Either it's the economy or it's society or it's the environment. And we're always trying to say, well, no, there's a way, there's a win-win, there's a way forward. And you're saying actually that when people play the game, if they prioritize one thing over another too quickly, then they've lost the idea of sharing, and it's this really interesting mindset change. We've only got about 30 seconds left in this segment, so can you tell us, Sam, if people are interested in the SDG Games, how do they test themselves in running this?
Sorry, how do they test themselves in?
Yeah, how do they access, how do they get to play the game?
Okay, I would say they can team up with us at MDF. And we are part of a larger network of SDG game facilitators that is set up by some Japanese guys who said, let's try and do something different. Let's make this world a better place. And so they set up this network. We are part of this network. So, and this is being played all over the world. So if you team up with us, then we can team you up with other facilitators, and you can play the game. Now it is, of course, online. but at the moment it is possible again to do it face-to-face. That's also possible. We can play with audiences up to 100 persons in one location. And then the fun is really there. It's really bustling.
Yep.
If everybody starts communicating and negotiating together, that's real fun.
Thanks a lot, Sam. And I'm sure the audience will go away and be looking for these SDG games. And as you said, somebody thought, why not do something different, and created a game that is changing mindsets. And I think that brings this section to a close. And I think that's probably the final thoughts I might like to leave you with. So let me say goodbye to Sam.
Bye-bye. Thank you.